So last year at Claricon, I found the player's manual and referee's manual for Mega Traveler. I looked at it a little bit and I was like, "Oh, this is cool." And then I bought it and I put it away on my shelf and I never really like dug into it a lot. I've played a bit of Cepheus, which is kind of like a retro clone of Traveler, but it wasn't until the other day I found on Amazon someone selling that third elusive manual for me that I could use, the Imperial Encyclopedia, that would allow me to actually play Mega Traveler. I was like, okay, I gotta dig into this. So I'm still waiting for that to arrive, but in the meantime, I've dug into Classic Traveler and I've played around with it a bit. So I'm going to give you my impressions. We're going to talk about it. I'm Tristan. This is Heroes in Homebrew. So Traveler's always been on my radar. It's always been one of those games where I was like, oh, this sounds kind of cool, but I'd never really read the rules. I never kind of went beyond the you could die during character creation, which I didn't bounce off of. I thought that was an interesting idea. And I've done character creation for Cepheus and sort of Cepheus, and I've played around with that a bit. So I was like, okay, well, I kind of seen how that works. So I started reading the Traveler facsimile edition, like the free version of Classic Traveler. It's all 3 books that you can get on DriveThruRPG for free. The PDF is free. I started reading that and I got sucked in. I was on vacation all this past week, and basically all of my free time on vacation, I have been reading Classic Traveler. I've been reading the facsimile edition. I've been creating characters. I played around with doing speculative trade and building ships and stuff. I read the some of the 2 books of Mega Traveler that I have. I've kind of seen the differences. Kind of fell on the side of Mega Traveler is so involved that I don't know if I really want to actually play Mega Traveler, but it's kind of got some cool ideas in it that you can like kind of use with Classic Traveler, because they're basically Mega Traveler is basically kind of Classic Traveler with a lot of the supplements put into it, and it expands on some stuff too. Like the task resolution is a bit different, a bit more involved. It's been a long time since I've read or looked at a rule set where I got so sucked in that I was like, I'm aching to play this. Now I've spent a lot of time focusing on BX D&D because I fell in love with BX D&D in kind of the same way. It kind of hit all those points that I wanted out of my fantasy game. It kept things real and gritty and dangerous for players in a way that more modern D&D didn't, and that appealed to me. Classic Traveler kind of hit that same thing, and I couldn't wait to play it. I kind of said, okay, well, I know our BX campaign is like that's a thing, and I've been working on it for so long, and I've got my zine out that I'm working on, but like I need to play this. And so after practicing making characters and stuff, that's what we did. So last Friday, my friend Flynn from RPG Dad, we sat down and we made him a character. I took him through the process of making a character, and we set him off into the subsector that I created, and we had a lot of fun. Yes, there's some rules that I had to look up. We had to pause so we can look things up and learn it properly, but overall it was relatively quick. He didn't do any fighting. We didn't get into the real nitty gritty of it. We just kind of said, okay, this is where you're going after you're released from your service, and he did like one job for a patron, and then he got on a ship and went to another planet, and that's kind of where we ended it because it was getting late, and we played for a couple hours, and we're like, okay, that's enough. We'll pick it up another time. And I gotta say, I love this system. I think I've looked at sci-fi games, and a lot of them I've thought were really cool, like Stars Without Number. I thought it was very interesting, and like it was recognizable because it's based off that D&D framework. But there was something about it that I couldn't make like hold on to. I read some blogs about Traveler, and those blogs kind of made Traveller click for me. It's not really a game about going out and adventuring. It's a game about kind of like outrunning your debt. Like you're basically you can start the game off in a ton of debt and you're just constantly trying to outrun that debt and pay it off and get more jobs. It doesn't have to be. It could be any sort of scenario you want, but that was what made me like, oh, that's kind of cool. So you're like, you have your ship, and yeah, you have all this the economics of the ship, and you're engaging in trade and picking up jobs, and basically like it's Firefly, and we've heard the stories about the Fireflies based off of Joss Whedon's Traveller campaign. How true that is, I don't know. You can kind of see like, okay, yeah, this is how I can make it into that sort of space cowboy game, or make it a space trucker game, or make it like an espionage game. You have all these options to do whatever you want, and they're kind of all laid out there in the book. Or the ideas, if you read it, you read the rules for things, you can create these ideas, and as you create your subsector, you come up with, okay, well, this is how this planet kind of operates, and it's under the control of these people, but this planet, like, you can start melding all of those ideas together. Like when I was building my subsector, I yes, I know there's the third Imperium. I know you can play in that, but I kind of wanted my own. I didn't want to play in. I didn't want to have to learn about a setting, and that's something I don't really enjoy with RPGs. I don't like having to work within a pre-made setting. I want my own. So I've started building my own sector. We started with a subsector, and as I was making the planets, making it and like setting out, okay, well, this area is controlled by these guys, and what's the relation to this other group that owns these systems? And like I'm just thinking in my head, and then as I'm writing little like 2 or 3 sentence paragraphs for each of these planets, it started to kind of make sense in my head. So that's another thing. Like it's one of those. It's been a long time since I've read a rule set that kind of immediately triggered my imagination on how I could do things and how I would want to run my campaign, or like how easily I could see like, oh, I like this would be a great solo game, because literally you could just play it as picking up the jobs and doing the trades and things like that. It's got the random tables. Once you do all that sort of heavy lifting of the front end work, the system runs on its own. Like the referee is just there to make the rolls when the rolls need to be made, to create the random encounters or sort of adjudicate what's going on, but the system sort of just creates that constant loop. Like every time you leave a planet's diameter to jump into hyperspace, you roll an encounter. When you arrive in a planet's system, when you arrive in a system, you roll for an encounter. You land, you roll for an encounter. Like constantly, okay, rolling and seeing it, and then as the things happen, that's where like you use your improvisational skills to kind of push the story along. And I've always been that sort of referee where I sort of improvise a lot of stuff. I rely on a lot of my front end work to be able to improvise what happens in the game. And I think Traveller lends itself very well to that. Now, I've always been sort of wary of running sci-fi games. They've never been my sort of what I enjoy, because fantasy to me is very easy, because there's not a lot going on. You don't have to deal with how a lot of the technology works or anything like that. Whereas sci-fi games have always kind of intimidated me about that, because you've got like all the vehicles, space combat, space travel, just the technology that is available to players that they can use. That's always been very intimidating to me, and I think I've always struggled running those sci-fi games. But when I was reading the facsimile edition of Traveler, which I've since ordered on POD and also waiting to arrive, I very quickly got over that, and got so excited about actually playing the game that I didn't think about like how I didn't think about the technology. I didn't think about my previous apprehensions about running a sci-fi game, and so that was very refreshing for me as well. I will be bringing you guys a lot more traveler-based videos in the near future. We'll probably do a character creation video and ship creation, sector creation, stuff like that, because I think that's the stuff to me as a referee is very fun. Now, in terms of like that third party stuff, I don't see the sort of the community, or like there is a community around Traveler. There's people who love Traveler and they play it a lot. But whereas, say with the OSR, you have people who make their own adventures and zines and stuff like that. I don't know if that exists for Traveler, and I think I want to sort of dig into it because Traveler doesn't really have that open license that D&D does. I would like to see. I want to dig into it and see if there's that sort of community is around, because I think it'd be very fun to, make sci-fi zines for this, where as long with, my D&D zine, my Beyond the Twisted Portal zine, which issue 3 is out. You should go pick it up. It's a lot of fun. I don't know if that exists for this. I know Mongoose is sort of keeps it very close to themselves. It would be nice to see the classic Traveler books available as print on demand. They aren't. Facsimile edition is kind of the closest we're going to get. Maybe in the future we'll get it or something, but whatever. At least we have the facsimile edition we can get print on demand. And it's not that bad. I haven't seen the print version yet, but like the PDF is fine. It's all laid out. In typical like old school RPG tradition, everything is all over the place. There's no like the layout doesn't make sense. But once you learn kind of where things are, you can scroll through it pretty quickly. I just wanted to kind of share my excitement for how I discovered Traveler recently. Something that's always been on my radar, but I never really sort of read and looked into, and how excited like it made me reading it finally for the first time, like actually reading it and learning about the system. How excited I got about like making my players be in crippling debt and having them try and work it off. Something about that really appealed to me, and it appeals to me as a solo player too. It's something that I've started making like a group of spacers to just, even if I don't do like a full campaign, like involved campaign, like I want to take them, put them on a ship and take them port to port, and it's a fantastic way to practice the rules as well. So go out, pick it up, pick up the facsimile edition. I'll put a link in the description. It's free. Print on demand, I think it's super cheap. I think it was like $13 or something like that. Like it's dirt cheap. So you can pick it up, and like that book's got everything you need to run in it. And then a lot of it sparked my imagination. I went out and I was like, okay, well, I need to be able to create aliens for it. So I looked at like sort of alien generators and stuff like that. And I picked up a couple of things and like kind of spread out. And now I've looked at like the supplements for Classic Traveler that I want to pick up in the future. So that's it for me. Stay tuned. I will be probably releasing more Traveler based stuff in the future, along with my regular D&D stuff. But like Traveler is going to be kind of big on my radar for the next little while. Don't know why it's taken me this long to get to it, but I will be bringing you more of it. So, till next time, save a seat for me at your table.